planned reopening of Khartoum's main airport today after a 2.5-year shutdown has been delayed following a series of drone strikes. The airport in the centre of the capital was targeted at the very start of the civil war between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces, causing extensive damage. Our correspondent Yusra El-Bagir witnessed the army's recapture of the capital early this year. Since then, more than 1 million people have returned to Khartoum, and the military has been trying to establish some normality. But the attacks have highlighted the airport's vulnerability to drone strikes from the RSF. Their leader has vowed to target military and civilian infrastructure across army-controlled territory with drones, while fighting to consolidate control of Sudan's North Darfur region. The US Special Envoy to Sudan estimates the fighting has killed 150,000 people. As many as 12 million others have been displaced, and half of Sudan's population, up to 25 million people, are facing acute food insecurity. The United Nations is concerned escalating violence will hamper their response efforts for what is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world, with the numbers in need of access to food and water far exceeding available resources. Well, earlier I spoke to Ted Chaiban, UNICEF's Deputy Executive Director, who's in Darfur, and I began by asking him about the situation on the ground.
Look, Darfur is going through a terrible phase where conflict is continuing, specifically around Fashur. We've got 260,000 people trapped in a siege for over 500 days. The people who have fled the city have had to go through a gauntlet of checkpoints where they've been stripped of all of their belongings. They've had to pay to get through. They've experienced sexual violence, and they finally found themselves in places around the surrounding towns and villages where they've tried to take refuge. And there they've arrived with nothing. The humanitarian agencies, including UNICEF, the UN, and the NGOs, are working to try to provide support to those families. And when I met with some of the families here in their TT displaced from Fashur, they said, we need security, we need food, we need access to health, and really important to us, our children need to continue to have access to education so there's a hope in the future.
How would you describe what people are experiencing?
Look, it basically is inhumane. It's inhumane that you're under siege for over 500 days. You then try to flee to security and you're extorted on the way to try to get to the place where you're going to be safe. It's traumatic. It's violent. It affects the child in every particular way. Their psychosocial well-being, their physical well-being, their sense of self and security. So what we need to do first and foremost is provide support to those families that we can access, those families that have left. And again, it's an array of services that they need, starting with health and nutrition, but also looking at issues like psychosocial support and education. But ultimately, what's needed is an end to this conflict. There has to be a political solution to this war raging in Sudan, which has impacted the country as a whole and dislocated the country as a whole. It's been going on for 2.5 years. We're at risk of losing a generation of children, and there isn't a military way forward.
What is the specific impact on children? 90% are not able to go to school. Many have been displaced. What is the specific impact that it has on a young child?
So Sudan is the largest child displacement crisis in the world. 4 out of every 5 children is out of school. 1.4 million children live in hotspots at risk of famine. If you're malnourished at a young age, between the age of 0 and 5, even if you recover, that has consequences on your mental and physical well-being for the rest of your life.
Apart from displacement and starvation and not being able to attend school, what are some of the other horrors that children have had to suffer?
Uh, every child in Sudan has experienced violence, directly or indirectly. We estimate that 2.2 million people are at risk in sexual and gender-based violence, particularly in the Darfurs and Kordofan. That sense of self-insecurity that comes with being in a family, in a stable environment is gone. And it has a profound psychosocial impact on the child. And that's why it's so important as part of the humanitarian action that we focus on, that we not only look at issues of health, nutrition, water and sanitation and hygiene, but we also look at issues of play through child-friendly spaces so that children can feel like they're children again, to look at issues of learning, which is an essential life-saving humanitarian intervention because it gives that child that sense of normalcy and that sense of security. And of course, ultimately, that there's a solution to this war, that there's a political way forward.
What's your appraisal of the international attention that this crisis has received?
Look, there's two things that keep me up at night, day in, day out, in addition to all the other crises in the world. The first, of course, is Gaza. And we've done everything possible to try to address the situation in Gaza. And the second is Sudan, the two places in the world where we have famine as we speak in the 21st century. In my view, Sudan hasn't received nearly enough attention. And there needs to be much more attention to the crisis here. Of course, we appreciate what attention has been received, both in terms of finances, in terms of attempts to bring the political parties towards a political way forward, including the work of the quartet. But there needs to be more done. The situation is urgent, and I appeal to your viewers. I appeal to anyone listening to really raise the bar on what we can do for Sudan in terms of resources, in terms of access so that we can be present everywhere in Sudan, and most importantly, in terms of a political way forward.